The ocean covers more than 70% of our entire world. It is a vast, freezing, and utterly lightless void. For centuries, seasoned sailors have whispered stories of sea monsters, rogue waves, and phantom ships that drift endlessly in the heavy fog. Most of these are just myths, ghost stories meant to scare young sailors by the fire. But sometimes the sea produces a mystery so physical, so profoundly terrifying, and so thoroughly documented that it defies all logical explanation. The year was 1947. The world was still recovering from the brutal devastation of the Second World War. The location: the treacherous waters of the Strait of Malacca, a major shipping lane located between Indonesia and Malaysia. It was a calm, unremarkable day. The water was still, looking like a sheet of black glass under the blazing sun. Suddenly, the routine silence of the radio waves was violently shattered. Several listening posts and ships in the region, including an American rescue vessel named the Silver Star and another ship called the City of Baltimore, picked up a distress signal. It was a Morse code broadcast, tapped out with a frantic, trembling hand. The pacing of the dots and dashes was erratic, chaotic, driven by pure panic. The message was decoded. What the radio operators read made the blood freeze in their veins. S.O.S. S.O.S. All officers, including captain, are dead, lying in chart room and bridge. Possibly whole crew dead. This terrifying update was followed by a long, agonizing pause of heavy static and meaningless random tapping. The radio operator on the other end was clearly losing control of his body and his mind. Then, one final chilling sentence pierced through the static noise. "I die." And then, absolute, eternal silence. The signal simply ceased to exist. The American ship, Silver Star, quickly triangulated the source of the desperate broadcast. It was coming from a Dutch freighter known as the S.S. Ourang Medan. The captain of the Silver Star ordered a complete change of course, pushing the ship's engines to their absolute limit, racing at full speed toward the isolated coordinates. When they arrived at the location hours later, they found the Ourang Medan drifting aimlessly in the ocean currents. There was no smoke, no visible damage to the hull. The ship looked perfectly intact, rocking gently on the waves. But there was absolutely no movement on the deck. The Silver Star blew its powerful horn. No response. They hailed them on the radio. Nothing. No one waved from the bridge. The ship was a floating tomb. Realizing something was catastrophically wrong, the captain of the Silver Star assembled a heavily armed boarding party. They lowered a small wooden lifeboat and rowed cautiously toward the silent, towering steel walls of the Dutch freighter. As the men climbed the rope ladder and finally stepped over the railing onto the wooden deck, the air around them suddenly felt unnervingly cold, despite the tropical heat of the Malacca Strait. What they found waiting for them on that ship is still considered one of the most horrifying and grotesque discoveries in all of maritime history. The deck was literally littered with corpses. The entire Dutch crew lay dead, scattered across the ship like discarded dolls. But it wasn't just the fact that they were dead, it was how they looked. It was the position of their bodies. Every single man was lying flat on his back. Their eyes were wide open, bulging painfully from their sockets, staring directly into the unforgiving sun. Their mouths were gaping wide, their jaws unhinged, frozen in silent, horrifying screams. Their arms were rigid, outstretched, reaching up toward the sky, or perhaps trying to push something away. something terrible that only they could see in their final moments. The horror wasn't limited to the human crew. Even the ship's dog, a large, tough German shepherd, was found dead in the boiler room. Its teeth were bared in a vicious snarl, snapping at an invisible enemy, frozen in a state of ultimate aggression and fear. The boarding party, deeply shaken, moved cautiously toward the bridge. They found the captain dead on the floor, his face twisted in the exact same mask of sheer, unimaginable terror. Down in the dark communications room, they found the brave author of the final S.O.S. message. The radio operator was slumped in his chair, his lifeless fingers still resting heavily on the telegraph key. His unblinking eyes were staring blankly into the dark corner of the room. The American rescue team checked the bodies meticulously. There were no stab wounds, no bullet holes, no blood, no signs of a physical struggle or mutiny. The men had simply dropped dead simultaneously, paralyzed by a fear or a force so intense that it stopped their hearts in an instant. Refusing to abandon the mystery, the captain of the Silver Star made a fateful decision. They would tow the doomed ship back to port for a full naval investigation. They attached heavy steel towing cables from their ship to the bow of the Ourang Medan. But the sea is an incredibly jealous keeper of secrets, and it rarely gives them up easily. Just as the massive engines of the Silver Star began to pull, thick, dark smoke started pouring ominously out of the Ourang Medan's number 4 cargo hold. The smoke was unusually heavy, smelling sharply of strange chemicals and burning metal. Panic set in. The boarding party scrambled back to their lifeboats, frantically swinging axes to cut the thick steel tow lines. They rowed furiously away from the Dutch freighter, watching the smoke billow into the sky. Moments later, the SS Ourang Medan detonated. The explosion was of such catastrophic force that it lifted the massive steel ship entirely out of the water. Within mere minutes, the blazing, twisted wreckage slipped beneath the dark waves, dragging all of its horrific secrets down to the crushing, lightless depths of the ocean floor. What truly killed the crew of the Ourang Medan? To this day, official maritime registers like Lloyd's of London show no record for a ship by that exact name. Was it a ghost ship? A myth? Or was it an unregistered black ops vessel, deliberately wiped from the records? Many researchers believe the ship was secretly transporting deadly, unstable cargo. Leftover nerve agents like sarin or tabin gas, smuggled from Japanese Unit 731 facilities after World War II. Or perhaps a volatile mixture of potassium cyanide and nitroglycerin. Seawater may have leaked into the poorly sealed cargo hold, causing a deadly chemical reaction. A silent, invisible cloud of lethal gas could have swept through the ship, suffocating the men where they stood, causing their violent muscle spasms and terrified expressions. Others whisper of more natural, yet equally terrifying phenomena. Massive methane gas bubbles erupting from the ocean floor, capable of sinking ships and asphyxiating crews in seconds. Or perhaps infrasound, low-frequency sound waves generated by the ocean that are completely inaudible to the human ear, but known to cause severe panic, hallucinations, and eventually cardiac arrest. Or maybe, out there in the freezing fog, miles away from civilization, they simply saw something that mankind was never ever meant to see. The ultimate truth lies at the bottom of the Malacca Strait, buried under miles of crushing black water. And there it will stay. The void remembers what history forgets. Subscribe to join us on the next investigation into the archives of blood.